we ever get to summertime out here, we'll be able to do some moto vlogs again. It's like all it does is rain. Pretty disappointing. Pretty disappointed in the weather out here in Texas lately. But we have some chain cleaning to do. I've always been able to only look up a few videos on this, so I'm going to flip the camera around and we will talk about tightening the chain tension on this because it's loose, loosey-goosey, and also cleaning the chain. So let's flip the camera around and do things that only Ducati dealers are allowed to do, apparently. Alright, so first things first, 23 Panigale V2, stock sprocket and chain setup, nothing's different. It's on a pit bull stand, so you're going to need a stand, a single-sided swing arm stand. For the tools, this is what I use. It's an Icon adjustable head ratchet, and then you have, I believe this is a 10. Yeah, it's a 10 Allen socket, and that'll fit there. I don't have a torque wrench, but these are 35 foot-pounds. I marked them so I know when I'm close to where they're tight at 35. I mean, that's just what I have right now. I don't have the torque wrench. I have a big one, but I don't have the one for this. So anyways, and then a spanner wrench. This is not for Ducati. This is just what I have, so it is what it is. It does work though. It's just a little bit of a pain in the butt, and that's literally it. You're just gonna loosen your two clamp bolts right here, and then, you know, get your spanner wrench and adjust until you think your chain is where you want it to be. It's really that easy. And the measurement on the V2 is this bolt right here. You stick a tape measure here, and it's an inch, so it needs to be like something like that, you know, so it's 1 inch from here to here. I don't need a tape measure because I know what it looks like, but if you don't know, that's how you do that. That's your measuring point is going to be right here. And what Ducati means in the book, they tell you to find the tightest part of your chain. You spin your wheel, there's always a tight point, which is going to be right here. See? So, and just one thing out of the gate, this part of maintenance on your bike is something that when you buy a motorcycle, you just kind of, it's like checking your oil on a car. You have to clean your chain, keep your chain lubed. At the very least, at least lube your chain. If you ride your bike a lot, once a week, you know, maybe every 3 rides is good, depending on how long those are. But you definitely need to be keeping up with your chain. I don't know, you know, if you know, but if it gets super dirty, it'll get rust. You know, without the wax and the lubes on there, it can get rust. It'll snap. If you're not checking how tight it is or loose, it can snap. So it'll go flying off. All right, so cleaning the chain. We're gonna tighten the chain up first, actually, because it's pretty. All right, so you're breaking these bolts right here loose. There's 2 of them. Like I said, don't do one at a time. Do a little bit on this one, a little bit on this one, back and forth. Make that come out evenly, because that is what grips the hub. All right, and then here is where you're grabbing with your spanner wrench. All right, and on the V4s, that's why I made this video, because on the V4s it's different. You're pulling that down to tighten it. On this bike, it's opposite. You're going up. So that's the trick here, and that's where people get confused. They get, you know, there is no V2 video on this, so it's like people are like trying to do it like the V2, and it's just loosening their chain instead of tightening it. But I have a good grip on it there. This isn't the right tool for this bike, but it does get the job done, this spanner wrench. But I don't have the actual Ducati one. The spanner wrench for the bike, for the Ducatis, and not this like generic fitting one that doesn't cooperate. It works in a pinch, and you need to make sure your chain is tightened right. Because if it's too loose, your bike's not going to perform well. It's going to bog. It can do neutral safety, or what the hell, false neutrals. If it's too loose, it'll just flop all over the place, and it's just generally not going to be a fun time to ride the bike if it's a loose chain. Wow, that's super tight right in that one spot right there. I'm not really sure. why it does that. So after a little examination, I've determined that this chain is shot and I need a new chain. But I don't have a new chain right now, so I can't put one on, so I'm just gonna run it a little bit loose. And the reason why I know it's shot, and this is a little trick that you guys can pick up on, it's got a really bad tight spot, like right here. It's pretty loose. It's loose here, nice and loose, and then it gets to like one spot, I can probably feel it almost, boom, right there. That's where it's tight, really tight. And that means O-rings somewhere have failed, or it's just a part of the chain that stretched or didn't stretch as much as everywhere else, and there's probably an O-ring failure or a lubricant failure. Anyway, the chain's shot. The best way to get out of that situation is to put a new chain on. That's one way to know that your chain is gonna snap before it happens. So I'll get the chain, but right now we're just gonna have to run it a little bit loose. And the problem with that is obviously I'm gonna lose horsepower, a lot of horsepower, like a lot. So pretty much gotta baby the bike around, not do over probably 120, not rep it out on all the gears. It just kind of is what it is until I get the chain done. But I'm gonna adjust it to where I think it'll at least, you know, I'm not gonna be putting around town, but you know, at least I can get the chain to where it's gonna perform as good as it's not gonna kill me. You know what I mean? Because if the chain snaps and you're doing 120, 130, 140, that thing's gonna come up and fly and hit you in the shoulder, and it hurts like a motherfucker. And I'm not about that chain whipping life. So I guess I'm going to adjust it a little bit more, and then I'll show you guys the cleaning part of it. But that's pretty much how you adjust it. Now, like at this point, I'm going to get it to where I need to be, and then those guys are going to get torqued down to 35 foot-pounds, or I'm going to land them right on that mark again. But yeah, that's how you do it. And this is supposed to be, this is probably about right there how you want it. You know, that's probably about perfect. Of course, you want to also measure that when it's down on the weight. And so, you know, once I'm all done and, you know, I don't have those completely torqued, I'll check that, and then, you know, you put the bike down, sit on it, make sure it's okay, and then tighten everything up. So, but that's generally where you would want that. Almost positive that the chain has a tight spot in it because it's got a bad O-ring somewhere. And listen, this bike has 10,000 miles, or you know, a little over 10,000 miles on it. You know, the chain's not going to last forever the way I ride this bike through all the seasons that I ride it through. You know, like I take this thing through ice storms, super cold weather, hot weather, rainy weather. Like, this thing's been all over the place. So this chain's definitely taking a beating. Gosh, I can't even get it. What's going on here? Maybe it's not loose enough. Oh no, that's pretty loose. Okay, I'm just not getting a good grip on it here with this stupid spanner wrench. I need a better one. There we go. Okay. My goal is to get it so where it gets to that tight spot, it's not that tight, you know. So, like, there's a real tight spot there. Holy goodness, man! If the bike hits that, that's gonna rip that thing right off. That is not good. And obviously, lubing the shit out of it's gonna help that as well. You know, if I get to that tight point like that, and then loosen it, then the chain's gonna be really loose. So that's actually not terrible. So I'm gonna just leave it there, and then get the chain done, get a new chain. I'll have to take it to Ducati to get that done because I don't have the tools to do a chain, and you have to grind these little heads off. I mean, a chain's easy to do. I'm not set up for it. kind of the same deal like I said with taking them off. You don't want to just do one completely. You want to do like a little bit at a time, so you know, get that one snug, like feel some resistance, and then go back and do this one, feel a little more resistance, go back and do this one. So just a back and forth deal. And again, 35 foot-pounds on those, in case you wanted to. As far as cleaning it goes, we're just going to use the Maxima cleanup chain cleaner, and then hit it with some of the same company, Maxima wax chain lube. And this stuff's pretty good. I know the cleaner's really good. I like this stuff. I've used it a few times, and I've had this thing forever. So you're just essentially just going to soak the chain, spin it around, scrub it with this thing, and then hit it with some paper towels, clean it up, and then I always clean the bike. This stuff, some of it's like, you know, you put it on, it's like 8 hours you got wait. Allow to spray set out for 10 to 15 minutes before riding, so that's cool. Like some of them are a while, like the Moto one's a while, but this one's not too bad. So let's clean this thing. It's all over the place, by the way. Alright, there's that stuff, and then you just get this guy. This stuff is nasty. Just get it with this thing, or you know, paper towel. Just pretty much that's all you're doing. A few spots that are, you know, not ideal, and you know, you could spend an hour doing this or 5 minutes doing this. It really doesn't take that long. You can see, like, here's a space here, like where that chain's super close, right here, the gap, and then you got a bigger gap here. So you just, you know, the chain's just failing in certain areas, and there's one of them too that's kind of bent, and we'll get some lube on that once I'm done cleaning it. But you know, this is one of those situations where, like, if you're, you know, you see guys with rusty chains on their bikes, and you know their bike's not fast, for one. If they don't have a clean chain, you know, it's gonna be pretty difficult to go fast when your chain's shot. You know, guys, like, there's really no getting around it. Like, you know, if your chain's like the main drive, you know, it is the drive. It's the force that drives this thing. So if it's not up to where it's supposed to be, then you know right there. So I always look, when somebody wants to ride or race or whatever, I'm always looking at their chain, because it's the first thing you can see from outside the bike to know if they maintenance their motorcycle. You know, just look at the chain. Tell a lot by a guy by his chain. But this is that one here that's bothering me. And you know, it's kind of like in a frozen upward position. So I'm just gonna wipe it a little bit more, and it's gonna be fine. I'll probably order a chain as soon as I go in the house. EK. Now it's my opportunity to get something pretty nice. Alright guys, so the chain's all lubed up and cleaned. I have it as tight as I'll be able to get it right now, with the very likely chance that the sprocket, the chain, and the front sprocket all need to be replaced. It's just got a tight spot in it, and you know, usually a lot of people think that it's the chain, but like, you know, a stretched O-ring or a missing O-ring or whatever in a chain is one thing. I keep my chain pretty lubed. I always lube it. I don't think it's the chain. I think it's the sprocket. So there's a lot of different videos out there that explain all this. I'm not gonna do that right now. You know, there could be a variety of different things. It's not missing a tooth or anything, but I think the sprocket could just get out of alignment with the way the factory settings were with the chain, and there's a lot of stuff with these chains. It's not just as simple as you know, it really, I mean, it's simple, you know, but alright guys, so I got the chain all lubed up, cleaned up and lubed, and I cleaned up the exhaust a little bit, cleaned up the bike, but you know, and then I tightened up the chain tension as best as I could. But there's a very, very good chance that the sprocket is bad. I know a lot of people think that when there's a tight spot in a chain, they go right for the chain, and honestly, yeah, it could be, you know, an O-ring or, you know, under lubed chain, but you can see it's very well lubed up. I lube it a lot, actually. I clean it at least once a month. I'm not gonna sit there and say I clean it every week, because I don't, but I keep it fairly clean and lubed. And you can, this one marked for some reason, I forget why I marked that, but in any case, I think the sprocket's bad. So to avoid any, you know, guessing, to take all the guessing out of it, you just replace the sprocket, the chain, the front sprocket, and call it a day, right? That's the easiest way around it. Now, if you're a cheap fucker, you're probably just going to replace the chain, and then here the sprocket's bad, and your new chain and new parts are just going to wear very quickly. So it's important to know what's wrong with your bike, because you can be replacing the wrong parts, and I honestly think it's the sprocket. So that's what my gut's telling me. And even if it is just the sprocket, I'm gonna do the chain anyways, and it's super cheap to do all this. But what's not cheap is if you're riding and you're doing 120 miles an hour and that thing snaps, and then it flies up, destroys the bike, can kill you, can hurt you really bad. And if it hits you, it's definitely gonna hurt, or it can hurt someone behind you, cause a wreck behind you. If you're riding with your buddies, this thing can come flying off at somebody. I mean, so make sure you're maintaining your bikes, guys. You know what I mean? Like, I always am pretty cautious of who I ride with, but if I see bikes that are pretty beat up around me in the vicinity, I generally not gonna ride with you, because there's risk factors of parts falling off or whatever. You know what I mean? So, anyways, I'm gonna drop the bike down, take it for a little test drive, make sure it's okay, because I am gonna have to ride it for a few days here until I get the new chain. It's maintained, and I loosened it up enough to where it shouldn't snap. It should get me by. I'm gonna have to baby it. You know, when you have your chain super loose like this, you're gonna lose a lot of horsepower, obviously. It's the main drive of the bike, so if it's not tensioned properly, you're just gonna lose horsepower. You know, you can false neutral a lot too when your chain's too loose. So there's, you know, just that. You just can't get high up in the RPMs. You're not gonna be able to rip on it, and just kind of baby it around a little bit. You don't have to putt around, but you know, if you had the chain tight to where I wanted it to, and then, you know, I'm doing 150, 60 miles an hour, what's gonna happen is it's gonna get super hot from the resistance because of that tight spot. It's not gonna go away. You know what I mean, guys? It's just not gonna go away. You're gonna get really hot. The chain's gonna snap, and boom, it's gonna come up and fly or hit the ground and cause big mess. So not good. That's why you gotta maintain your bikes. That's why all that's important. But anyways, like, share, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Go in the links below for Raven Moto. Get yourself some riding pants and gloves and all that good stuff. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.